We're sitting down talking with Jack Maus W0MBD of the St. Cloud Amateur Radio Club. He is one of our senior members. My name is Charlie Cheerhart, K0SV.
And I am Scott Hall, N0UV.
And I'm W0MBD, the host of this particular gathering, and we're going to try and give you some idea of what ham radio started out at like and what we went from the beginning, which we think was sometime around 1922 or 1921.
It was well before all of us were born.
And none of us were born because I was born in 33, so I was... there we go. But my call... I had 3 call letters at that time. I was a novice, the first novice in the area, and that was WN0DYE. The N stand for novice. And
what year was that, Jack?
1950.
Yeah.
So then the FCC decided finally that the code was obsolete. So then all of us novices went like crazy for the general class license and then the advanced class license. So we're very happy the FCC in its wisdom let us upgrade as we went along.
Because you are one of the last advanced class licensees that license no longer exists.
Yeah.
And you're still one of them. And
I still have an advanced class license. I think the renewal will still show up as an advanced.
It should.
This year. And so we're still advanced. We're not extra. But all the others had the highfalutin capabilities of knowing Morse code. 13 words a minute.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was the stumbling block for so many of us.
Yes, yes. I remember that when I started getting my novice. It's like, that was the one thing you said was, there are so many that will have troubles passing 13 to get to the general. And he says, I don't think you will. Yeah. Because us young kids at the time were like that. But you were the teacher for the club for many years, too.
Oh, yeah.
You taught the classes.
Yeah, I taught the classes and it was part of the exam group.
Yeah. So when did you upgrade then to general class?
I can't even tell you.
Well, how long did was the novice good for at that time?
It was good for 1 year.
Oh, wow. So you had to upgrade fairly quick.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, it was just 1 year. So I had to upgrade. I didn't have to upgrade in class of speed, license of Morse code. I was able to upgrade just with a written exam.
Did you take that up? You had to go down to the cities to take that then, to the FCC building in St. Paul?
We went to St. Paul. And, my dear father would give me the ride down to the exams.
Dads do that. Mine did that too.
So there we are. We were grateful to our dads.
Yeah. They promoted us a little bit at it, didn't they?
Yeah, they sure did.
Because I think they had an inner curiosity about what that stuff was too. So.
Yeah. Because they would buy radios and they made sure that they had the shortwave bands on it. Mm-hmm. So we'd be able to listen to the ham bands as well as broadcast. That was in the 30s, 1930s. We wanted to listen to Hitler talk over in Germany, and my dad understood German, and he kind of would interpret it.
Wow.
So, so there we are. We were eye-peeping in on World War II before we knew it.
Yeah. So going back to Bob Witch and W0SV, the club namesake, I guess you'd have to say, it's the namesake, because we have the club call sign as W0SV.
Yeah.
He got licensed what back in like 1917ish, 19ish.
Yeah,
wasn't
I
it
think
like
that-
9SV was his call?
Yeah, it was 9. It was just the letter 9 for the 9th district, and then the call SV, and he wanted that call because of the construction of it in the Morse code. Yeah.
It goes really fast. I know that for field day. It really goes. It's really smooth and easy to send.
Yeah. So, anyway, Bob is, I guess we have to call him the father of the radio club. So,
What did he do exactly?
he was chief engineer at KFAM.
That's what I thought I remembered.
Yeah. And he was sort of a entrepreneur to the FCC for various constructions. That's why we have 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10. All of them are harmonics. For building a multi-band radio station, there would be the key for it, going right down the ladder. And,
7, 14, 21, 28. Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah, everything's harmonic. It's for building antennas. It's real easy.
Yes.
Yeah, you can cut a multi-band antenna real easy.
Yeah.
That was his doing. Oh wow, that's something new.
So we're very happy for that particular situation.
One of the radio pioneers in amateur radio and in broadcast radio.
Yeah. So KFAM was one of the first FM stations in the middle part of the United States. And Bob was so excited one day, he came to the radio club meeting and he said, I just got a QSL card from a guy in Wisconsin who heard our FM station here in Wisconsin.
And I'm like, wow, from central Minnesota, that's long range.
So that was a highlight of Bob's career.
Because I think Bob knew, what was it, Seibert. I had Dick Seibert was one of my instructors at Votech, and he was one of the pioneers in FM broadcast commercial stations in Minnesota. And I recalled talking to him, and he knew Bob Witchen.
Oh, sure.
You know, it's like there were two chief engineers that knew each other that were basically doing the same stuff with radio equipment. It's like, but my instructor never got his ham license, but Bob did.
Yeah. Well, Bob was certainly helpful to a lot of amateurs in getting them going.
When did the call change over to the 0? When do you remember when the 10th call district popped in?
If I'm not mistaken, it was 1939.
Okay.
Too many hams got on the air in Chicago, and they didn't like hearing a 9 all the way out in Minnesota and the Dakotas. So at that point in time, the FCC said, well, we'll split you up. And since we can't do anything else but divide the 9th district, so they divided it, the 9th district with Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. And the 0 district would be Minnesota, the Dakotas, and
Colorado and Iowa and them guys.
Colorado and Iowa.
Yeah.
So
Nebraska,
there we
them
are.
guys. Yeah.
Back to the designing of the call letters in the United States to accommodate some hams in Illinois.
Now the club itself, when was it was it formed in 1922 because of the ARRL, or they finally decided to officially be recognized as
They
a
were
club?
informally gathering every month at somebody's house, you know.
Yeah, so they were getting together anyway, but they finally decided to
said,
actually
well,
become a club.
Let's make it a club. So they said, we'll call it the St. Cloud Radio Club, and so it was in the 20s. That's all I can say is that it started in the 20s sometime.
Wow.
But it's been going ever since.
Yeah, we are one of the oldest clubs in the country.
Yeah.
Because we found that out at our 75th anniversary when I was president. We got the plaque. We did a little research, and we are one of the oldest clubs in the country that's still going, and one of the few clubs with a clubhouse.
Yeah. a fortunate group.
Yeah. Because I remember going over to Bob Witchen's house with you that time. Gosh, that would have been 1972.
Yeah.
I was first licensed, and I was the tag-along kid because I couldn't even drive. I didn't have a driver's license yet. I was only 15. And I remember we went over to his house over on 6th Avenue up by Hester Park there. And so went into his garage, and that's where I got one of my 6-meter beams, my Aggies. And it's like, nobody wanted it. Said, well, I'll take it. I still got that thing. I still remember walking up that driveway to that house. I was like, wow. I felt I was walking into the history of the club.
Well, I had the good fortune of being able to buy Bob Witchen's tower and move it out to my homestead out on the west of Grand Lake, up on the highest hill that I could find in the area. And so I had that 50-foot tower plus an extension out there, and I had 2-meter beams, 10, 20, and 40. No 40 meter, just 10 to 20. And a storm took it to its demise, so to speak. He called me. I was in New York at the time at a meeting, and they said, well, your tower said goodbye. It tipped over, and I said, well, what kind of shape is it? Did it completely destroy it? No, I think it could be salvageable, and Joe up in Sauk Center is interested in buying it from you. So that's where the tower went.
It went there, and you got it. Because I remember when the land down by Pearl Lake there. Was there a house? There wasn't a house up there to begin with. No, yeah, because I remember help unloading that house from that truck.
Yeah, the house, we loaded it from the truck and hauled it up the hill.
Yeah, we didn't have a choice because the truck got stuck and jackknifed on the county road. It was stuck back there blocking the road, and it's like, you had some great neighbors because they came out with wagons and tractors and stuff, and that's how we hauled the house up a hill.
Yeah,
I still remember that as a kid, and like, to me it was fun. It was hard work, but it was something totally unexpected that you'd never see in your lifetime. You'd say, what'd you do on Saturday? Oh, I helped haul a house up a hill. What? It was in pieces.
Yeah, it was a kit home that we bought from a company down in Robbinsdale.
Yeah, that was really neat.
What can you tell us about being a ham before World War II?
Before World War II,
what kind of equipment?
The hams were probably the main chief operators that were acquired by the military immediately because they knew Morse code and because they knew knew RF and what was happening with radio frequencies and so on and so forth. So any ham that got into the service automatically was put in the signal corps. So there we were. As young kids, we were too young for military service during the World War II, but all of the hams that were in the age brackets, the 30s and 40s, they were immediately acquired by the military for...
yeah, because ham radio stopped during World War II. They stopped it. It was banned.
So then when the war was over, they gave us back the bands, and they decided that that's when they would construct, in 1950, the novice technician class licenses.
Mm-hmm. So that going back to your dad and listening to the radio, the old broadcast radios, that's what got you interested in ham radio?
Sure.
Oh.
So ham radio was the same thing as the broadcast radios, except that it was hams that were doing it. It wasn't any commercials.
So how'd you come across the St. Cloud Radio Club then?
I joined the radio club because I was listening to the 75-meter phone net all the time. And the 75-meter phone net decided they were going to have a get-together. The middle place that they figured would be Sauk Rapids. So when I found that out, I said to Dad, hey, let's go over to Sauk Rapids to do that ham fest and see what the equipment is that they've got over there.
What year was this?
And that was 1947.
So it was even before you were licensed?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had a chance to oogle some of the equipment. And, well, my first radio station was a Viking 1, which was a Heath kit that was put together by E.F. Johnson in Waseca. And the receiver was a Hammerlin HQ129X. So I had a Cadillac type receiver because it could receive 10 meters through 75 meters and 160 meters. So as a result, I was in net control for the Minnesota State Phone Net every once in a while and all that kind of stuff because I was right in the middle of it all. So, but it was all a great fun. And so we started as Hamfest in 47 and we kept right on going. Did the variations as we were forced to do from time to time, to finally we ended up with the Minnesota frozen frost bit Hamfest.
Because now we call it what, the
Cabin fever.
Cabin fever reliever.
In February.
February, yes.
Because we used to have 2 Hamfests. I remember that. We used to have one in August.
One in August, but it was too close to school and things like that, and it made it too hard for some of the hams to be able to get to the Hamfest and get the kids to school at the same time. So there was where the Hamfest went.
Wow. So they started a long time ago.
Yes.
So I remember them at Sauk Rapids. They were there for many, many years. What were some of the things that you did at the Hamfest with the club? What did some of the activities
we
that
had
the club
coach
did?
contests. We did stuff like that. Find out who could copy the fastest in code. Somebody had a SpeedX code machine, and so they would crank it up. First, started out at 15 words a minute, just above the 13 required. Then they crank it to 17 and then to 20. And some guys were copying 25 words a minute, but they had a good memory.
Yeah.
And they were able to copy code at 20 words a minute without any trouble.
Yeah, because the extra class code speed was 20.
Yeah. So when it got up to that point in time, you really had to be something to copy the 20 words a minute.
So them first Hamfests sound like they were fun were there a lot of Hamfests in Minnesota at that time back in the 50s and 40s, or they were in their infancy?
There was maybe one in Minneapolis and one in ours in St. Cloud, and then there was Brainerd started up with one, but it didn't happen all at one time. They kind of grew out of each other.
That's great. Because I remember one of the things we had was the fox hunt.
Oh yes, we had a fox hunt.
What was that guy's name? Charlie Compton, wasn't it? The guy who kept winning it every year?
Yes, he had
what was his called? Do you remember? W0 was
the BUO.
Yeah.
W0.
This guy, when that first Hamfest I went to in '72, and my older brother had to drive me there because I still didn't have my license. But I remember this guy came up with a car that it looked like it was something totally out of this world. The equipment he had in that car, and he could find the hidden fox transmitter in no time. Nobody else could do it so quick.
Yeah.
He won that I don't know how many years in a row.
Yes, he had a good direction finding system.
Oh my good, he knew how to use it too.
Yeah.
But it's like, I remember one time saying to the club, I said, we should just name the award for this, the Charlie Compton Award. Just give it to him. When he comes up, say, here, you can have it. We'll find out who's going to finish in second.
Yeah.
Because we know you're going to find it first no matter where we put it. About the only place I think you're going to put it where he wouldn't have found it might have been on top of a water tower or something. Then he'd have figured out it was up there anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember there were a lot of fun things that were done at the Hamfest with the club.
Yeah.
It was a big social
in the
gathering.
swap meet, at that time there was enough military surplus stuff that was still floating around, and people that had extras and modified stuff that they wanted to peddle at the Hamfest so that they have a few extra bucks to buy a piece of commercial equipment of some sort or another. like National was building good receivers at the time, and Hammerland was building some of the good equipment, and Helicrafters was going in pretty good shape too. So they were kind of the big three.
And Collins was
down in Iowa was doing the Cadillac of the hams.
And it still is to this day, pretty much. That equipment still holds up, and it still holds its value.
Art Collins came up to the St. Cloud Ham Fest once and showed some of his equipment. And it was he was the delight of the day because you could really tune in a signal like nobody else could. And the frequency coverage was from 10 through 160 meters, but it was just ham band only. He built it on that system of the harmonics. Right along the line. And that also was the father of the World Radio Laboratories, because Leo Myerson did the same thing over in Council Bluffs, and he built his entire transmitter and receiver system. He built his transmitter line. He didn't go into receivers because that was too hard to tune and get it working good. So he came with transmitters, the Globe Scout, the Globe King, and the Globe Champion, and 3 ranges of different classes of power output.
Wow.
And that caused the FCC some grief too, because they had to make sure that it wasn't illegal. Because you get a Globe King and you parallel a couple of finals in there, and you'd have about 1,500 to 2,000 watts.
Oh my. Yeah, you get to turn on a few light bulbs with that.
You turn on a few light bulbs with that.
Oh my goodness. I
used a story, in fact, of what things happen when you have a reasonable amount of power. I always told the kids in my class that I had a neighbor's frying pan that talked, that the lady heard me talking on my rig with. I had a Globe King 500. I turned it on, and the carbon under the frying pan was just enough of an arc to rectify that she could hear me talking.
On the frying pan.
A fry pan receiver.
So she was wondering what was going on, and she told me about it later on, and I said, well, there you are, RF rectified on the carbon of the
frying pan.
She could hear me on her frying pan. I said, oh, does that bother you? And she says, no, I just wanted to hear what the other guy was saying.
Oh my. Yeah, that was great.
So there you go. Funny things happen with RF.
Now, with Bob Witchen, when do you remember when he passed away? Was it back around 71, 72-ish? Because we went over to his house, I remember, to get a bunch of equipment and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it had to have been around then, I would have thought. Because I met him, I believe, one time.
Yeah.
I believe so, once. But, that's a long, long time ago for you and me.
Yeah, right. For some reason or another, the fog kind of hits us in the...
Who were some of the other hams that were in the club back in the late 40s and 50s when you first got involved with the club?
Let's see. Well, there was... that's Shaking the Greats.
Well, there was Frank Pickard. Was he back then? When did Frank come in? Because I remember he lived over by KFAM.
Yeah,
he lived over in Fernwood there.
Fernwood.
I'm trying to think some of the hams that I remember when I was first licensed. That would have been the early 70s. But
but just to think of all of the different call signs and the different nets and the different gatherings and so on and so forth. It's one of those situations where we don't know how long the Hamfests are going to keep going, but it seems that everybody likes to eyeball QSO.
Yeah, the socializing. Well, you think
Because
about
they all have the same thing in common, radio and shortwave
and the curiosity. That's the one thing I always found out was you talk to any ham, and there's always a curiosity involved.
Yeah,
and as long as we've got people who are curious, I think amateur radio is going to exist.
Two things that happened in the 1950s that radio amateurs were interested in: Sputnik and the sunspot cycle of '57.
Right.
Could you tell us about Sputnik? Did you hear it?
Oh, when Sputnik went up, they said, that's the end of the world. The Russians are going to put a homing device on a Sputnik type of satellite and send it back to Earth and destroy the United States. Never happened, but it was a good pipe dream that anyway, us hams were forbidden to listen to it for a while, a short period of time, until they realized that they can't come in on the receiving side of the beam. So they said, you guys can go ahead and listen to it, and time it passes. So we listened for Sputnik's pass. It had to be almost in line of sight before you could hear it.
And you were saying the sunspot.
The 1957 sunspot peak. That was supposed to be epic.
Yeah, that was supposed to be epic, in which we would, on 10 meters and 6 meters, we would have skip going all over the world.
Oh, wow.
For some reason or another, it didn't quite work that way, but a good portion of the sunspot cycle made it possible for us to do some experimenting with keeping schedules with stations in Europe and Asia and Australia and so on and so forth. So it was always really quite a feat to be able to work an Australian station or a European station from the middle of the United States, Minnesota. We don't think much of it now.
Hey, I remember one of your favorite, one of the big transceivers you had was your Swan 500C.
Oh, yeah.
I still remember that because I liked that radio so much. I went and bought a Swan radio as one of my first sideband radios. I bought a 270 to Signet.
Oh, yeah.
And I had that for many, many years. But yeah, you were my first instructor with the radio club. You taught, how many years, when did you start teaching the classes for the radio club?
I think it was sometime in the 60s.
It had to be, because I started the class in '71.
Yeah.
And they said you'd been teaching them for a number of years at that point.
Yeah. I taught in 1960s. I would guess I got the class going, and then we would have the examination sessions at the Hamfest.
Yeah.
You know, we do it, the class before the Hamfest, just from Christmas, after Christmas vacation at school, we would start the classes and go until the Hamfest, which would be in the middle of February.
Yeah, because I remember taking the class and getting my licenses February 11th, 1972 is when it was issued.
Yeah.
I still remember, I still got my original license.
Oh, yes.
And that was a class. Now, the radio club itself, you went from house to house, you know, at first. When did they start meeting at that building in Way Park?
Charlie Graff was the one that instigated that. And he said that he had talked to the people at the Burlington Northern, and they weren't using that building. And there was nobody having an interest in the building. That was the old ambulance building and first aid building. So the workshop area, they closed up the door there and made that into a regular room, and the service rooms, the classroom and the operating section was all part of the emergency services.
That was the first aid station. That was the nurses station at the car shops.
At the car shops.
But
we started before that meeting at the fire department up
that
there,
emergency that building that was up by McKinley School.
Yeah, by close to the water tower.
Yeah, it was right at the base of the water tower. 'Cause I remember there was a big emergency truck that was in there. It was a big, humongous, and we'd have to walk around that to get to where we'd meet.
Yeah, but that was the beginning of another era in the St. Cloud Radio Club. The St. Cloud Radio Club, though, really had started before World War II. At some time before that, there were such people as Gene Everslag and some of those were part of the St. Cloud Radio Club. So we were meeting at houses. We'd agree to, you put on the coffee pot, we'll come and we'll see what we want to do with regards to field day and what we want to do for different ham events during the year, and then we would go at it from there.
Because we used to always have a dinner. I remember it was out at the King's one year. It was all over the place. And we'd have a Christmas party.
Yeah. So that was we still are party animals.
Yeah, we are. I still remember that gentleman, Bill Boyning. He was in the wheelchair. He was Doc Boyning's son.
Oh yeah, Bill Boyning.
Yeah, and I remember that was when I first got involved with the handy hams with you, and that was because I had never seen somebody so handicapped like that was able to operate ham radio.
Yeah.
And it was to me, it was just absolutely fascinating. It was like, wow. And he was just fun to talk to, too. He was one of the members of the club, and I was like, wow, anybody can do this hobby. You just got to want to try it.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
Bill was in the radio club, and when Senator Barry Goldwater was running for president, he came to St. Cloud to give a speech, and Barry was a ham, W7. And so we finagled to have Bill talk to Barry Goldwater at his campaign gathering at St. Cloud State. So I got a picture someplace yet of Bill Boyning and his caretaker and
Barry Goldwater.
Barry Goldwater.
Because didn't the radio club give Barry Goldwater something?
Honorary membership.
An honorary membership, and what's it, a granite paperweight or something?
Yeah.
I remember hearing stories from you guys way back that we gave him a piece of Central Minnesota granite.
Yeah. So we've had some interesting notoriety show up at the St. Cloud Radio Club.
Hey, we've had a foreign ham operate field day.
Yes, we had something like that happen.
Yeah, we got that. That was in the Times, in the St. Cloud Times. We still got that. That was, the club has done a lot of good things. And you teaching the classes, you imagine, Jack, how many licensed hams you have helped get their license over the time that you've been with the club?
Probably 100.
Oh, it's more than that. What's the craziest thing that ever happened at the club while you've been a member? How about something like that?
Oh golly. Well, I guess the guys using the motorhome that I had given to the radio club and going out and doing a de-expedition in South Dakota.
That would have been cool.
I remember because South Dakota didn't have many hams, and we decided, well, we'd go out there, we would operate with this champion type mobile home, and we'd have 2 ham stations in there and just use wire antennas. And we became the hunt of the field day because we were the only ones that had such a situation.
That was sometime in the 90s?
Yeah. So.
Because I remember my first field day, we went down to Camp Courage down by Annandale.
Yeah.
And we set up out, I remember operating as a novice, laying on my stomach, using an HW16 Heathkit transceiver, sending Morse code in an army tent.
Yeah.
And the night before, Friday night, Art Carlson and I were up there. And it's like we were talking to on 2 meters, which at that time was fairly new.
Yeah.
2 meter FM. We were talking to the hams in Brainerd. And they were trying to figure out how they were going to get their hammer out of the tree. Because they were putting an antenna up. They were figuring out how to put it. And they tied the rope to the hammer and threw it up. And it got caught in the tree. And so Art and I looked at each other. Remember, we'll use rocks. We weren't going to use any tools to erect any antennas that way, throwing ropes up through the trees. We'll use a rock rather than a hammer, because they got their hammers stuck up in a tree about 20 feet off the ground. And I remember laughing like that. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. But
Yeah.
field day with the radio club has always been interesting.
Oh yes, we've had some funny things.
So Jack, we've talked about the 20s and the 30s with the club, and even the 40s with the war. Amateur radio was put on hold because, like you said, the amateur radio operators pretty much all went into the service and became Signal Corps, which was pretty much true. Because I know after World War II, one of the hot items that the hams liked to get a hold of, the R390 receiver. When that became military surplus, I know that was one prized
possession.
Because my older brother had an R390. And I remember seeing that thing, and it's like, who made the R390? Do you know offhand?
I'm not sure.
But whoever did, I said, it was one solid receiver. It's like, boy, was that a sharp receiver.
Yeah. Well, you know, there was a lot of military stuff that got orientated into ham radio ranks. And so as a result, we found military stuff piling into the ham fest. Anybody that had a go at a military installation
managed to acquire some equipment.
Yeah.
Because I know the military, my older brother said in the Navy back in the 70s that they'd throw stuff overboard. Just getting rid of it, it's like over the side it went in the middle of the ocean. So there's probably some R390s laying down at the bottom of the ocean all over the place.
Yeah.
Rusting away. Well, I know you talked a story, I don't know when it happened, but I remember you said you once tuned up, a bed spring or something thing, and made some contacts by hooking some of your weirdest...
We loaded various things for antennas. We found out that we could resonate a bed spring. We also found that we could resonate other metallic things. Anything that was metallic we could resonate somehow or another. We either add a coil or add a condenser and shift the frequency.
This true spirit of experimentation.
In other words, if you had a pocket full of capacitors and a pocket full of coils and so on, you could just about load anything, including yourself.
Well, in the 70s, I remember when I went through the class with you, there was, there was Bob Backer, I believe, my older brother, Craig Carlson, myself, Gary Loomis, and Lolly Loomis.
Yeah.
There were those 6, and all 6 of us got licensed. So I think my brother was one of the first calls. He was WN0GRZ, and I think there was a GRY before him. I was GSB, and I think I may have been the tail end of it. So there were 6 of us that were licensed at the time with our novice, and that was well, would have had to have been almost like December of 71, January of 72, because how long did it take for the ham licenses to get issued? It was a few weeks.
Usually it was between 3 and 6 weeks.
Yeah, and if mine was issued February 11th, it would probably meant that we would have done the test session probably around Christmas.
Yeah, we did do test sessions at various times, but the main test session was, of course, at the Ham Fest, because that we opened up to anybody that was attending the ham festival could take the tests.
Yeah, that's one of the good things. You've brought so many hams into this hobby.
Yeah.
The club has come so far. You were the president, because I remember when I took over presidency, you were the president before me.
Yeah. Well,
What offices have you all held in the club?
Well,
I know president for sure.
well, all of them. I guess I was even included in the treasurer.
See, I wasn't. I've been the secretary, but I was the youngest secretary our club's ever had, because I was 15 when I got elected secretary.
I don't think I was a secretary, but my writing was too poor.
Evidently mine wasn't quite that bad then when I was 15, because I remember that was 72, we had the elections, and I got nominated to be secretary, and so I was the secretary for a while. Been the vice president, yeah.
Yeah, and if you weren't at the meeting, that was all the better, because we
Railroad. You could hear the train coming.
the train came.
Oh yes, but we had a lot of fun. I'll tell you, field day was always a good time with you guys.
Yeah.
It was.
So,
You never knew what equipment was going to come out for field day, but it always came from our own stations,
Yeah.
and that's what made it fun. Because for me, one of the great joys was going to your house and just looking at your setup.
Yes.
You had such
Well,
a
when
nice
we had
setup
it-
up on the hill.
When we had that up on the hill, that was the fun part of it. We certainly put up a good antenna farm.
Oh yeah. Did we ever do a field day from your house?
Yeah, it
I
was.
thought we did once. I know we did it from Bill Zinn's house once.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, we've done it from the clubhouse many times. We've done it from Raymond Park in St. Cloud. We've done it from the park over by the Sauk River there by us,
Yeah,
by the clubhouse.
Yeah, Knights of Columbus Park.
Yeah,
yeah.
we've done it from the Boy Scout building over at by the field down by the Moose. We did it. We used to do it. I know down in Annandale at Camp Courage.
Camp Courage, yeah.
You've been a good leader in the club for many years, and you've done so much for the club.
And, well, anyway, at the present time when I go to town from here, we always go by way of St. Joe, and as a result, I go down A Street and I see that whether the tower is still up. Because we put that tower up when I dismantled the stuff out at the
lake, yeah.
acres.
Yeah, up on the hill.
Yeah.
Because that's what we called it. We always called your place up on the hill. It was on
Yeah.
the hill.
So,
Because, yeah, that was a beautiful station up there. I remember having a Christmas party up there.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, we had many good times.
Many more to be had, too.
Yeah.
Many, many more to be had here. Where do you see the club going? As being one of our forefathers, one of the guys who's one of our elders, where do you see ham radio and our club going?
Well, you know, we have to face the fact that we have, so to speak, the invasion of the internet. And so what we'll have to do is we'll have to be compatible with internet and doing things with that, and because people see it like this. We used to have to get on the ham radio because we couldn't work any DX. Where on the internet we turn the knob to the right frequency and we go ahead and talk. But what we got to do is we got to keep going. I think that it's really hard to predict what is going to happen in the next 10 to 15 years. But I think that ham radio, for people who want to still build equipment, it's a gem time because of some of the things that are coming off of the commercial lines at the present time are adaptable to ham radio, so there's going to be constantly that type of stuff happening. It's too bad that people they've been doing things in the radio club, and then they just walk away from it and never don't do anything anymore. There's a few and far between that keep on going and add to the radio club. So I think that what we've got to do is we've got to find how we can preserve some of these members staying with the radio club.
Staying active.
Yeah, staying active in the radio club. So emergency services operations is, so to speak, minimal in comparison with because of the internet. But otherwise, I think that what we have to do is we just gotta have keep plugging along. That's all there is to it, and find out from. I think of the past presidents who just plain walked away from the radio club and are gone.
Well, you know something? There's 3 past presidents sitting right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe a future one.
And possibly a future one. Yeah. The next generation one. Yeah, an up and coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we have to do is we have to keep plugging along. Perseverance, for sure.
Yeah. Because you've done so much for the club over the years. The Superlink, we never even touched that. How Superlink was set up and how you did that, and emergency services and Skywarn, and you had your hand in so many things with the club. And hey, we thank you very much for doing it and being a mentor to many of us and giving us insight. And we do appreciate you taking the time here, Jack, to share it with us and share it with everybody else.
Well, when I see these people here that call signs I've got written down, some of them are silent keys and we can't do anything about them, but some of them are still able to be active if we have something for them to do. Mm-hmm. But they have to be wanting to do it, and that's the problem.
Yeah, that is so very true. You know, life goes on no matter what, as we all find out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Jack.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun. Thanks for the help.
Hey, thank you for the help.
And we'll hope that the radio club has another 50 years of going.
Oh yeah.
And we're thankful for that situation in which we have. We don't know what's going to happen with that, but the radio club's building is
safe and secure.
Safe and secure. The radio club net going for emergency practice and things like that. We want to keep it. We want to be able to, when the time comes, be ready to do something for the public service of the community. That's for sure. And I think we could probably work a little bit, see if we can't get things to be a little bit more friendly with the emergency services of the county and so on.
There are people working on that.
Yeah.
There are.
Right now.
Yeah. Even as we speak, there are people working on that.
Yeah.
As they say, mending fences and building new bridges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. The club is, like you said, we don't know what the future holds with amateur radio in society, but we do know that the club is aiming in a direction of community service more and more, just like what we've always been, but more so making the new connections and trying to get like you say, having the members who get their license and never do anything with it. Yeah. And now we're starting to get members who are getting their license and starting to do something with it and starting to have fun. We're trying to bring the fun back.
Yeah.
And the excitement, because that's what it all got us into it. So.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Jack, for your time.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, you know that we're all cheering for you all the time.
73s from this end.
Yeah, and thanks again.
Or as you would say, let's tie the ribbons on it.
Okay, we tie the ribbon on it.